Above and Beyond Salute, sponsored by Firehouse Subs, recognizing first responders and other deserving individuals in our community. Friday mornings at 8:30 on News Talk KVNU.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Northern Steel Building. A Utah lawmaker is pushing a proposal he hopes will make bicyclists safer. And for Senator Nate Blauen, Democrat from Salt Lake City, the issue is personal and painful in several ways. Blauen is a cyclist himself and enjoys the sport. He also lost his father, Craig Blauen, who was hit by a vehicle while cycling in 2018. To that end, Blauen, a brand new legislator, is proposing Senate Bill 232. It would require drivers to move to the next lane to the left if there's a cyclist on the shoulder and it's safe to do so. It's similar to the law that requires drivers to move over for police who are pulled to the side of the road. Blauen said he's worked with the nonprofit Bike Utah on the bill, and he believes it's a small step to keep cyclists safer on the roads. The bill has been introduced in the Senate, but it does not yet have a committee hearing scheduled. There are less than 3 weeks left in the legislative session. KVNU News Time is 5:06. KVNU weather for tonight. Mostly clear skies, cold down around 5 below. Partly sunny, then clearing on Thursday, high around 20. Partly cloudy and upper 20s on Friday. It's been to 22. It's 20 right now at KVNU. Hey, the Duck Hunter reminds you, please change your furnace filter every 3 months. Your furnace will run more efficiently. Very important during this cold time of year. To clean your ducks, give the Duck Hunter a call, 435-770-4813.
In the beginning of time, in a land far away, hid a material in the earth so versatile that once discovered could give way to a century of innovation. From primitive weapons to railroads to buildings that scrape the skies. What is it? Steel. And without it, our world would look much different. Nothing is stronger or more versatile than steel. And if you want a building that'll stand the test of time, call Northern Steel Buildings at 435-677-7300 or visit northernsteelbuilding.com. That's northernsteelbuilding.com.
KVNU News Time is 5:07. A special event will be held on Friday, February 24th from 6 to 9 p.m. at Ridgeline High School. It's Dancing with the Relay Stars 2023. On KVNU's For the People program on Tuesday, organizer Stacy Hansen said it's the kickoff to the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life summer event that will be held in June.
And so this is just kind of our precursor to Relay for Life, and it's our main kickoff event for our 2023 season. We've been doing this event for about 10 years, and it's just a fun way to get a different type of community involved, where it's the dance community, and it's in the winter, so we always like to do something indoors.
Hansen said a lot of planning goes into the yearly Relay for Life.
Yes, we have a committee, and the committee itself puts tons and tons of work. We started back in September for this upcoming event in June, and we meet monthly, and we have subcommittees working on different areas of Relay for Life, and so it just takes a lot of effort and work on our part, but it is so worth it in the end. It's one of my favorite events of the whole year.
The Dancing with the Relay Stars night is only $5. Proceeds go to the Relay for Life and the American Cancer Society.
We get volunteer dancers, so everything is volunteer. We have picked out some local celebrities. We call them stars. So they might be business owners or directors of certain programs or that type of thing. And then we've paired them with some volunteer choreographers that have been in dance for a number of years in ballroom, hip-hop, jazz-type genres, so a variety of genres. And they have been working on their dance routines for the last few weeks, maybe a month, depending on the partners.
Hansen said they have also invited many dance studios in Cache Valley to bring a couple routines each and dance as well. For more information, you can see their Facebook page or call or text Stacy at 435-770-8608. And Utah lawmakers took another step towards adding more days to the calendar for lighting off fireworks. A proposal to let Utahns light fireworks on New Year's Day cleared its first hurdle Tuesday on Capitol Hill as House Bill 378 passed unanimously out of the House Political Subdivisions Committee. Representative Candace Periucci, Republican from Harriman, the sponsor of the bill, said it's an important change to make. Her bill would allow fireworks from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. on New Year's Eve, or make that on New Year's Day. Now, fireworks are already allowed on New Year's Eve. In addition to that, there's another bill moving through the process, Senate Bill 46, that would add 5 more days of legal fireworks for the Hindu celebration of Diwali, which typically falls in late October or early November. KBNU News Time is 5:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Own a small business or a farm? You thought about solar? Listen up. A new USDA grant was announced allocating $300 million for farmers and small business owners to put in solar. That's right. The government will help you get solar installed, covering 40% of the cost. And don't forget, as a business, you can save up to 50 or 60% more with federal and state tax credits. Second Sun Solar will install your system and help with the USDA paperwork. Call Second Sun Solar today at 435-363-9917 or online at utahsolardirect.com. When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Hour 2 of today's show. We interrupt our coverage of the action on Capitol Hill at the two-thirds point of the legislative session. About 16 days left in the legislative session. If you'd like to engage, look at the calendar to see if there's a time maybe you want to go down and actually be there. They encourage you to do this. They make it easy to do this. Everything's streaming, audio and video, past and present, on le.utah.gov. You can search by keywords. You can search by bill titles and numbers. You can search for your lawmakers and see the bills they're sponsoring or co-sponsoring as floor sponsors. All of that at le.utah.gov, and a lot happened on the Hill today. We've been talking about some of it already here in Hour 1 of the show. We'll get back to it here in Hour 2, but we're going to step into the governor's office, figuratively, for a bit here. This was actually an event that took place outside and then inside in a pretty lofty production today, but it probably warrants that. Governor Cox today in a press conference alongside the CEO of the company and some others from the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, which is what we call the Governor's Office of Economic Development now, to announce what Governor Cox said is the largest investment in the private economy in Utah in state history by one company, in fact. Texas Instruments, or TI as they're rebranding themselves, have selected, the governor said, Lehi, Utah for the location of their next chip manufacturing factory. This will be $11 billion, thousands of jobs, and is also kind of important for the future of not just Utah, but the American economy. If you were paying attention over the last year or so, pandemic-triggered supply chain issues and international geopolitical issues as well playing at least some part in this, there was a chip shortage. And it led to a decline in manufacturing that cost a lot of jobs via layoffs, but also made it kind of harder, or at least more expensive at times, to get certain electronics. Now, most manufacturers have production years ahead, And so it might have not been that noticeable to many people when it comes to your cell phones or your, electronic toys. But it was very noticeable to one industry, particularly here in the United States, vehicle manufacturers. Car manufacturers were struggling to get the chips they need for the circuitry involved in today's smart cars. And this was not just electric vehicles or Teslas. This was, any car with a touch screen, any car with, electronic gadgets in general in the dash, which is pretty much all of them these days. They were having to shut down production lines for weeks. A bill was passed and promoted by the Biden administration to address this with some federal funding to beef up manufacturing here in the United States. Instead of importing so many of these chips, we'll make our own, at least more so now. There was Congressman Burgess Owens who was here at the press conference today, and he took some criticism for that because he actually voted against the chip bill for partisan reasons, and then was there celebrating it today. But put all that aside, all the political jockeying around this aside, and kudos to the governor for not delving into that, not downplaying this, because this public money investment in chip manufacturing is allowing, the governor said, expansions like this one here in Utah, which again he said was the biggest single investment by a private company in the state of Utah ever. $11 billion is what this will dump into Utah's economy, which includes, of course, construction of the building and more, but also thousands of jobs will be created. Texas Instrument CEO today at the press conference said this is obviously a long-term commitment. They plan to be here in Utah for generations, or they wouldn't be building here. So they're going to start that in Lehi, Utah soon. And, well, here's just a bit of the governor's remarks from today's press conference on this Texas Instruments announcement.
Habib, thank you to you and to your incredible team who have made the trek here to Utah to be with us this momentous morning. I want to thank the Speaker and the President for their incredible support for being here. Congressman Burgess Owens, thank you for joining us. We're honored by your presence today, and to our mayor, members of our county commission, and distinguished guests, thank you for joining us. As was already mentioned, this is a huge day for Team Utah. The Texas Instruments, of course, is a global leader in semiconductor manufacturing. There's been a lot of talk about semiconductors, the CHIPS Act that recently passed Congress, and the importance of bringing supply chain back to the United States. We know as we went through the pandemic, we realized how important supply chains are to our state and to our nation, to our national security, and to just our ability to drive cars and buy stuff. And we know that if there is anything that you have that turns on and off, there's a very good chance that there is a TI chip in there somewhere. TI has a site in Lehi, formerly known as the Micron site, just 30 miles from here, which ramped up to production late last year. There are lots of chips being made right here in Utah that are powering electronics around the world, and there are going to be a lot more chips to come. So we want to thank all of you for joining us for this exciting announcement. Just to try to put into perspective what an $11 billion investment is for our state, that is more than double. In fact, it's almost 3 times the greatest economic investment made in a state by a single company. It's hard for me to put that into perspective, but it just goes to show the real commitment that the Texas Instruments has in investing in Utah for their future. This is not something that is just going to benefit us for a year or two. This is something that is going to benefit us for generations to come. And as was mentioned, these are good jobs. These are great jobs for the people of Utah. We are so grateful that TI is thriving and looking here. I want to especially thank everyone who has been involved in this process. And it is a process, both on the TI side, on the local government side, at the state government side, as we have worked hard to recruit. Utah was not their only option. And so it matters that they chose us. We want to thank our federal partners as well for working on legislation to make this moment possible. Again, to make sure that more advanced manufacturing is moving back to the United States. And Utah has positioned itself, again, thanks to our chambers of commerce and everybody involved, Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, our board. Thank you to our board members who worked so hard. There were decisions made long before I became governor and long before this legislature convened that made it possible for this day to happen. In fact, there were decisions and opportunities made 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago that have led us to this moment. To past speakers, past presidents, past chambers of commerce, past investors in our state. I want to say a special thanks to all of you for the work that you did to lead us to this moment.
The governor was also joined at the podium today by the CEO of Texas Instruments, or TI, explaining why they decided to take this very small Micron manufacturing interest that they own here in Lehigh already and expand it with an $11 billion investment.
As the site for our next 300-millimeter wafer fab. With the anticipated growth of semiconductors in electronics, particularly in industrial and automotive, and the passage of the CHIPS and Science Act, there is no better time to invest in semiconductor manufacturing. And with this additional capacity, we will put a lot more silicon into the silicon slopes.
The Texas Instruments CEO said that currently Micron in Lehigh, owned by TI, employs just under 1,100 people. This investment over the next 3 years, he said, would potentially triple that as far as number of jobs. And then, of course, there's the economic impact of what they're manufacturing in general. During the Q&A of the press conference today, after the speeches were over, an interesting question was fielded, and the governor took the question on workforce. This has been a debate during the legislative session, of course, with siphoning money from public education for school vouchers, with a bill just this week debated that seems to be sort of just adding a workload to schools and higher education, and even some talk of cutting funding for higher education. Question for the governor was, where is everyone at on workforce? Obviously, an educated and skilled workforce is something that this project will depend upon. Does the governor anticipate any softening of the legislature's I hate to use the word attack, but negativity towards higher education of late for political reasons? The governor said,
we are developing that workforce. So as this manufacturing process happens, this will be over the next 3 years until completion, 3 to 4 years. We'll be working to develop that workforce. We have new young people graduating every day, and a need for these types of jobs. We'll be working to upskill our workforce as well, existing workforce, again, getting these better jobs, these higher paying jobs. This will be huge for our growing workforce as we move forward.
And, of course, with drought and water dominating the legislative session and being on every Utahns' mind in one way or another, there was, of course, a question about, the impact of an $11 billion expansion at one facility that it might have on Lehigh's water system, which, if you followed news stories throughout the last couple of years, struggled quite a bit. In fact, they were afraid they might have to shut down the culinary system last year, 2 years ago, due to water shortages in the siphon tanks there. But they're working on that, the governor said, and the state is also investing in some of these water infrastructure development projects. So over the next year or two, the governor said the picture should be looking a lot better for the Lehigh area when it comes to, new residents, that something like this expansion of Texas Instruments in Lehigh it's of course going to draw people in. Can the infrastructure handle that? Is the state prepared for this type of thing when it comes to our already challenging water situation? And the governor said,
So that's been a topic of discussion from the very beginning with TI. There's a lot of work happening in this space. Mayor Johnson and his team, the water is available, so that's the good news. And TI is working very hard on the design phase of this to make sure that they will be using less water, be able to reuse that water in the process, so water is not being lost. And we feel very good about the projections around the water usage and the existing water in that system right now. Again, we appreciate the work that has been done with the local district, the water district as well, who have been very involved in these discussions.
Again, that audio from a press conference, which if you'd like to watch it in its entirety, it was about an hour long after everyone got a chance to speak, including the Senate President, Speaker of the House, who you did not hear in the highlights here. That link is available, that video rather, is available on the governor's Facebook page. Governor Spencer J. Cox on Facebook is what you want to search for. I've also linked to that on our first Facebook page. But those are the highlights, and again, a big announcement today. Texas Instruments selecting Lehi, Utah for the location of a big chip manufacturing factory. They currently own Micron there in the Lehi area, employing, just under 1,100 people, as we learned during the press conference there. But they're going to expand this and potentially triple the number of jobs. It's going to be over 3 years, $11 billion. They're going to be dumping into Utah's economy through both new building construction, but also some new infrastructure, some kickbacks they're offering to the state, I'm sure in exchange for some tax cuts. That's usually how it works. And of course, new jobs. So this is going to be, the governor said, mutually beneficial, but also has ramifications nationwide, even globally, as we have seen again through the pandemic, what a chip shortage means and how that brings much manufacturing to a complete halt. With this TI in expansion here in Utah. Utah, the governor said, is now officially on the map. If you want to know more, there are some links the governor's office provided on the Facebook page with the video there, including a link to the CHIP Act passed at the federal level. This was pushed by Democrats in the House last year, and it basically is a lot of public spending, a lot of taxpayer money being put into everything from infrastructure to incentives, basically with the goal of keeping manufacturing in the U.S. and bringing it back and beefing it up, as, again, we learned that our supply chains are a little more fragile than we thought. We found that out during the pandemic. The governor said all of this is good news, and of course, he's happy as governor of Utah that Utah is right at the center of it, thanks to this announcement by Texas Instruments, again, that they've selected Lehi, Utah for their big chip manufacturing expansion. More on this, again, via the links on our Facebook page. And we'll be back with more of KVN News for the People and more of what happened on Capitol Hill today. Some insight into the budget. May not be as much surplus money to go around as lawmakers have been planning on throughout the session. That was a bit of a downer during the press availability today. We've got some highlights for you. That's next here on KVN News for the People.
Ready to experience a new level of local transit? Well, with the new CBTD app, it's super simple for you to plan your trip to a T. With our interactive map, you can view bus stops closest to your location with real-time arrival information. You can mark your favorite stops, get alerts, set reminders, and much more. So whether you're a seasoned pro or it's your first ride, get moving today with the new CBTD app.
This is Jeff John, head golf professional at Logan River Golf Course. It's time once again for our Valentine's and President's Day sale.
The golf shop will be open from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday.
We'll have all our passes on sale, including half passes, as well as great saving on all our men's and women's clothing, shoes, and headwear in stock. For any combined purchase of $75 or more, you will receive a voucher for our free 9 holes of golf anytime this summer. Logan River Golf Course. Play well, play fair, play fast.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Thursday on This Morning, America's First News. The deadly shooting at Michigan State is shining a bright floodlight on campus security. How are schools managing while open to the public? Also, President Biden, the oldest commander-in-chief at 80, is reaching out to older voters. Hear the message he's trying to convey. And is a new title at work meaningless if you don't get a raise? Thursday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. So, there you're up to speed on the governor's big announcement today and the expansion of chip manufacturing in the United States, long overdue, having a Utah central point, at least as far as the devices Texas Instruments makes. So. Big news, really. And the reason I'm excited about this, well, I'm a nerd, but I really think for years, I thought one of the worst things we did was incentivizing offshoring of manufacturing, which this people forget this, but this was actually a policy goal at a certain point. And the way it was sold to us was everything will be so much cheaper. You know, this is back when, the only cell phones that existed were the size of those old school black lunch boxes you see in cartoons. And they were only used in cars attached to the car. And occasionally you'd see some person trying not to look foolish holding something that big to the side of their head. And electronics were primarily home devices, TVs, and we were in the when this was really ramping up, this whole offshoring is good of manufacturing. The big screens were just kind of starting to be a thing, and so technology was already a big part of the average American home, and that's how it was pitched to us by policymakers. Some of them that are still there. I made note of that. There were and good for them for holding out this whole time. Although Feinstein just announced she's not running again, and she was one of them I made note of. But I thought about this as the CHIP Act passed at the federal level, which basically is where the money is coming from to incentivize companies like Texas Instruments to stay here. That money allows them through granting processes, through infrastructure investments, through a lot of taxpayer dollars being thrown at this. It makes it more financially feasible. It makes it make sense for companies to keep their manufacturing here or expand their manufacturing here in the United States. And that's exactly what the governor just announced today. But I remember as the debate was playing out, first you had the typical partisan silliness. You had people like Congressman Burgess Owens, who had the absolute chutzpah to show up at the press conference today. He voted against the bill, and he's right there smiling with all of them. Yes, this is the great thing. Such is our federal politics of the age. So there were people who voted against it just because Biden was pushing it, even though they agreed with it. Not all of our congressional delegation did that. Owens was alone, thankfully. But then you have, outside of the silly partisan politics, you have the longevity of some of these. And I wondered if some of them were aware of it. I wondered if Senator Feinstein and others who had been in the Senate that long, or even President Joe Biden, who was a senator at the time, I wonder if they remember going on cable news, because the internet wasn't a thing yet. And I don't know if Feinstein or Biden themselves did, but I know this was an actual message Congress and President Reagan and President Bush and even President Clinton after them. This was a thing they said to us, which is this will make it. We shouldn't be afraid of manufacturing going overseas, of all this offshoring of customer service and call centers, because it's making everything cheaper. You want your stuff to be cheap, right? Well, if you want it to be cheap, they've got to go where wages are the lowest, and manufacturing sources are coming in the cheapest and the fastest from their supply chains. And so if that's Mexico or India or somewhere not the United States, we shouldn't hold that up. That was the message in the late 80s, early 90s. And now, I think we've seen that was maybe a little short-sighted on so many fronts. The jobs that were lost, the manufacturing jobs that just were no longer here, but also our dependence on lengthy and complicated supply chains that are more fragile than any of us ever realized. And the pandemic comes along and shows us that. So I'm happy this awakening has finally happened, that it's kind of important to make stuff inside your own, on your own, inside your own borders. So that there's at least some things you're not dependent on an international travel route or the decisions of another country and their economic decisions for your supplies, to build stuff, to make stuff, to keep people employed. It's not just about the cool phone in your pocket or the cool TV hanging on your wall at home. There's an economic side of all this. So I'm happy to see the shift. But again, I wonder if some of these senators, some of these folks who have been in politics for, since the early 80s, early 90s, late 80s, I wonder if some of them thought about it as they pushed this, remembering back in that day telling us, no, this will be a good thing. Offshoring is good. It wasn't. It never was. All right. On the other side, what happened on Capitol Hill today? Senate President Stuart Adams taking some heat for what I believe, at least, is a well-intentioned bill he's running himself, which is rare for legislative leadership. It usually means it is a must-pass priority. What is it? Well, it's basically a slush fund for homebuyers, and it raised some questions. And to his credit, the Senate president responded to each and every one today in the media availability. Senator Mike McKell also offered some additional details on his bill, which has now passed the Senate and is awaiting its fate in the House, where who knows what will happen, that bans social media use for minors in Utah under the age of 16 without parental consent and proof of age. A lot of questions about, how will a minor prove their age or their parent prove their age for them? Senator McKell did his best to try and answer questions he does not have answers to as this bill sails through. All of that right after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:37, and the news brought to you by U&I Furniture. A Goldman Sachs survey finds that 70% of small business owners give the federal government a grade of C or below for the effectiveness of programs, services, and tax credits that are available to them. An overwhelming majority say it's important for Congress to modernize the Small Business Administration. The SBA is the government agency tasked with ensuring the health and vitality of the nation's entrepreneurial community. Uinta Mattress was one of almost 2,000 small businesses that participated in the survey. It's been around for nearly 40 years in Salt Lake City. President and CEO Skylar Northstrom says one has to admire an entrepreneur who is confident in a time of uncertainty. 68% of those who participated say they feel optimistic in 2023, even as many business owners expect a recession.
It's not good, but it's not so bad that we're not excited, right? There's a little bit of passion that starts to replace the fear in entrepreneurs.
Nordstrom says the mattress business is not the easiest one to be in, and he adds he believes the industry is already in a recession because of shortage and high costs of raw materials, transportation issues, and low consumer demand. Given the challenges, many exacerbated by the pandemic, Nordstrom says that they have fared well. A 55-year-old man died after he was struck by a car in a crosswalk on Redwood Road. Salt Lake City police responded to the scene near 685 North Redwood Road at about 7:12 Tuesday night. They said the man was deceased in the road when they arrived. The driver remained at the scene and was cooperating with the investigation. The crash analysis reconstruction team and Salt Lake City police crime lab technicians also responded to the scene. Based on a preliminary investigation, detectives said they believe the man was walking in the crosswalk while there was no signal for him to cross. The driver was allegedly traveling southbound on Redwood Road when the man was struck. Northbound lanes were closed. While officers responded to the scene, 2 lanes were open to westbound traffic. And Salt Lake County Sheriff Rosie Rivera says she will not oppose a new version of a bill that would effectively eliminate the Unified Police Department in 2025. A substitute to House Bill 374 focuses on the Unified Police Department and calls for its elimination in 2025. The sponsor of the bill, Representative Jordan Tucher of South Jordan, said the original goal of the code creating UPD focused on having a single police agency in Salt Lake County. But he feels the exact opposite has happened, with other cities moving away from UPD and creating their own departments. KBNU News Time is 5:40.
Lots of closeouts and store-wide specials as you and I gets ready for new arrivals coming from the furniture market. Dining room sets, sectional sofa and loves, and chairs. If you're not happy with the chair you're watching TV in, come pick out a recliner for you and I's big selection. And if you need a new bed, their favorite new mattress is a Therapeutic with copper-infused memory foam. You can tell by just placing your head on that bed how comfortable and cool it is to sleep on. Shop you and I's sale now. Get the low sale price and lay it away until your tax refund shows up. Always a better buy, you and I Furniture, downtown Logan.
KBNU weather for tonight, mostly clear, low near zero, sunny, lower 20s tomorrow, partly sunny in the morning on Friday, and partly cloudy in the afternoon. Hazy conditions back with us on Friday, upper 20s for the high. It's been to 22. Right now we have 18 at KBNU. Work with Northern Steel Building's Cache Valley team to build a stronger, more durable, long-lasting structure for your needs. Visit northernsteelbuilding.com or call 435-677-7300. For more details on these and other stories, visit cachevalleydaily.com.
It's here, your one chance this year to get Michelin tires at wholesale prices or even less during the Discount Tire and Automotive 4-day warehouse sale. Through Saturday only, Discount Tire has the guaranteed lowest prices of the year. So low that Michelin won't let them quote prices on the phone. Find the best deals on light truck tires like the Defender LTX with durable tread life no matter the season. Passenger car radials like the Michelin Cross Climate 2. Even high-performance Michelin Pilot Sport AS 4 Plus all-season tires. Discount Tire's layaway lets you take advantage of these hot prices now with 20% down, or choose 6 months no-interest financing. Discount Tire and Automotive has the lowest prices, period. They scour the competition to be sure no one beats them, online or in person. Open till 7 Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 6 on Saturday. Or shop anytime, day or night at webtires.net. Don't miss the lowest prices of the year, now through Saturday at Discount Tire and Automotive in Logan, Providence, and Smithfield.
Discount Tire, so much more than a tire store.
Now that the holidays are over, are you feeling the need to declutter and get that stale, closed-up smell out of your home? You should have your air ducts cleaned by the Duct Hunter. The dust that accumulates over time can appear as surface dust and can cause your home to smell musty and dusty. Call the Duct Hunter at 770-4813.
We are the Duct Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duct Hunter.
As a small business, achieving your financial goals and ambitions can be a steep and rocky mountain climb. This is Lance Zollinger, president at Cache Valley Bank. To conquer the mountain and achieve your goals, it takes planning, hard work, and discipline. At Cache Valley Bank, we have the resources, expertise, and flexibility to help you scale your way to success. Give us a call. Let's work together and climb the mountains that await. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
The colder weather is here. Are your quilts and blankets looking dingy? Is your winter coat or jacket dirty enough to stand in the corner just by itself? Well, go to Mount Logan Laundry. It'll take no time at all to freshen up everything. They have the 55 and 80-pound washers, the biggest around, and great big dryers, too, and it costs a whole lot less than dry cleaning. Free Wi-Fi and drop-off service. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town on the corner of 5th East, 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham at 1st East, 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. It was an eventful day on Capitol Hill. We've talked a lot about some of the the fireworks and committee meetings yesterday and today, this morning at least. It's been quiet this afternoon, but there was a lot of, I don't know, maybe the word good is subjective in these situations, so maybe I shouldn't say good work, but important issues were discussed and debated, and bills on these subjects passed or not by the legislature. Again, 16 days roughly. Well, as this day ends, 15 days left in the legislative session, and the speed over the next week and a half will pick up to the point where, yeah, if you want to engage in this, now is definitely the time. I don't want to say, I hate when people use phrases like keep them honest. It implies they wouldn't be otherwise. And I don't think that is the case for most of the legislature. But I do know we have like Senator Colmore, who has never seen a bill to benefit his personal industry where he makes his money in his day job that he could say no to. I think there are some who don't care about how things are perceived. They're not breaking any ethics laws or rules, but it's just ugly to see them running bills that will make them money, and they do it anyway. But most of the legislature, unlike Colmore and Tusher in the House is another example of that, most of the legislature isn't like that. In fact, I can proudly say that when it comes to Cache Valley lawmakers, from Casey Snyder in the South to Mike Peterson in the North, and our state senators, Scott Sandel and Chris Wilson, they don't do this. They do care about the public perception and public faith in the process, and I think that's important. But that's more of the philosophical side of all this. On the practical side, the way these types of questions play out are traditionally a good goal, a good proposed solution, but some of the dynamics around it not so great. And one of those popped up this week. In that, so Utah has a housing crisis. And one of the things we know right now is that first-time home buyers are not having much luck. Unless you have a lot of money just sitting around or are willing to commit to some eye-popping rates, it's not a great time for first-time home buyers. The hope is that will change over the next year, and the prognosticators, for what their opinions are worth, are saying that's not likely to happen. Senate President Stuart Adams, who, it's worth knowing, works in finance, that's his day job, he's a banker, he proposed basically, and this is something he's kind of known for, back when he was just a state senator and not Senate President Stuart Adams, he was known for slush funds. He was known for proposing an idea that the public would get behind that was solving a problem everyone agreed needed to be solved. Good intentions is what I'm getting at. But his solution to it would be, because he trusts himself and his colleagues on the Hill, to just throw a pile of money in a slush fund with very little oversight and let them spend it. He's done it again. And it's attracting some criticism as well as support, because what he's proposed is that, and he's running the bill. That's what attracted everybody's eyeballs on this one. Leadership traditionally avoids this unless it's a priority issue, and this must be. But again, he's a banker. This is something he will make money off of one way or another. The majority of our legislature has ties to or is directly involved with real estate and real estate development. And so when this proposal was unveiled yesterday, a lot of people said, the proposal is a $50 million fund that this bill, sponsored and run by the Senate President himself, would be set up. And the way that $50 million of taxpayer money would be spent is it would be allocated in some way or another. The details are murky, at about $20,000 per family or individual, to be used to either buy down a rate or to use directly as a down payment for first-time home purchasing. So not renting assistance, not anything like that, but first-time home purchasing only. And it's a great idea. But again, some of the questions around this are legitimate as well. Primarily, why is the Senate President, who works in banking, running the bill himself? And how will the oversight and accountability work? Not a lot of answers to those questions so far. Today, the Senate held their media availability for the week, and this was the first question Senate leadership got, directed right at Senate President Stuart Adams himself. And that was the question. What will be the oversight system for this distribution of $50 million of taxpayer money to first-time homebuyers? And two, why are you running the bill?
But one of the things that I mentioned is that we have an affordable housing problem in Utah, but we kind of look at affordable housing sometimes as more multifamily, more apartments, maybe even a $2,000 rent payment. But we're losing our middle class, and we're trying to solve the affordable housing problem by putting people in rental products. Back in the 90s, and I'm old enough to remember back that far, Utah Housing had a first home buyer program. And it's time, I think, we reinvent that. We need to get people out of the apartments into homes. And what this does is allow up to $20,000 to be used to buy down a rate or use for their down payment to allow first home buyers to be able to get into a home. And it's timely, and it is finite. It isn't an ongoing program. But when you see a slowdown in the market, when you see interest rates rise, you see permits fall, and it also helps the home builders industry because it'll be limited to new construction to allow them to have maybe a more soft landing, but to be able to get people out of that first home, out of the apartment into that first home and build the equity. I'm worried about the middle class. I'm worried about people who don't have the equity that comes in their home when they become 60 or 65, what their future is. So this is an effort to try to do that. And the reason I'm running it is I'm pretty passionate about it.
What's the total, really quick, what's the total dollar amount that you're anticipating being appropriated? Maybe Senator Stevenson.
Well, I'm working. I'm working on it. I'm trying to get $50 million, but I'm not sure if I can get that out of Senator Stevenson.
Senator Stevenson, what do you think?
Well, can I answer your first question? If you ask why Senator Adams would run this bill, I don't think there are very few in this body that would understand the home building business from the time you go out and procure a piece of real estate until a customer or a homeowner moves in the front door of the home any better than he does. He understands that entire process because he's participating in it.
Yeah, we don't build homes anymore. We used to build a lot.
But now, to answer your question, $50 million, we do have a lot of money, and we're looking at a lot of different housing options. This will certainly be on the list, and because of the President Adams, I'm sure his will carry quite a bit of weight as we move through the process.
We'll see if that is possible. So anyway.
And with our housing shortage, we don't have enough houses out there for people who want to buy houses, and obviously you want new home buyers to be able to get in, but how does that play into this whole conversation?
Well, I've talked to people, a lot of cities who have approved townhomes and small lots, but they're saying the townhomes and small lots of the structures on those have not been the size or the price point that first home buyers can afford, and they're trying to get additional density, but because there are other buyers that are competing for that, this first home market has been pushed out. So this does allow them, I think, maybe a little preferential treatment to have builders actually look to that first home buyer. And again, the second and third home market will come after. But if you don't have that first home, you really don't have the equity for that second or third home. And I think we're losing that. And I'm afraid if we lose it totally, we will lose our middle class, because most of the equity people have, most of the net worth people have are in their homes.
The Senate president also added, or reminded rather, that he, to address some of the concerns over him running this bill, something he would, himself or his company rather, profit from. He said this will be temporary, but his goal again is just to create some preferential treatment for first-time home buyers to get them into that first home, something that Utah has done in the past. So great to see him answer those questions as well, and also great to see that people were wary of this, though it sounds like not much to worry about here. Good goals, as long as there's some accountability in how that money is spent, which those details remain to be seen, but the bill hasn't actually been published yet. We'll see. Should be up by tomorrow morning, and as soon as it is, we'll let you know. and maybe start spreading the word to first-time home buyers or not first-time home buyers. If you want to share an opinion on this, you're definitely going to want to reach out to Senator Chris Wilson, whether you support or oppose this idea, before the end of the week. This one's moving fast. Also, during the Senate media availability today, because we couldn't get to this yesterday, Senator McKell was busy and not able to be a part of the media availability as the bill actually passed. He was available today. Now, this is a done deal and headed to the House. And what the House does with it, who knows? But it's a bill that basically bans social media use without age verification and parental consent for those age 16 and under here in Utah. Big questions from everyone about how this would work, how it would even be enforced, and how it even came about. Senator McKell was there to, answer those questions today.
So one of the things we do with the verification is we're going to resolve that through rulemaking. We give our Division of Consumer Protection some time to look at that. So you'll see in the language, we basically encourage the Division of Consumer Protection to work with stakeholders. And we also make it clear that we want there to be other options other than a government ID. Technology is really good now. As I've met with stakeholders, they've brought some ideas with some technologies, and we want to make sure that those are addressed when we do the verification process. Great question.
And obviously they're already collecting a ton of data on everyone, but are you at all concerned that kind of allowing different third-party options could make people more vulnerable to having even more data out there in the hands of social media companies?
We're not. As you look at the bill, we've restricted that data for the sole purpose of verification, and it's really clear in the language with rulemaking that it's very, very narrow, and that information will only be used for that purpose.
Can you walk through some of the practicalities of that? If I'm a 15-year-old and I want to get on social media, I have to have my parents' consent, but what if they don't have social media? They would have to sign up in order and have all their stuff verified in order for the teen to get on?
So for the teen to get on, we'd have to verify that there is an adult. So mom or dad would have to verify at some point that an adult is involved. And at that point, you would consent. I mean, what we're really trying to do is empower parents to be involved in the process. So you as a parent would be able to make that decision for your teen. You wouldn't necessarily have to have an account. You would have to verify that. There'd have to be tools that were available to you as a parent.
But how do we verify with the third-party apps that already uses our pictures and our stuff like that if we don't have an account?
So there's going to be a lot of options that are going to be developed through rulemaking. But again, through the Department of our Consumer Protection, they're going to look at it and make sure that we can verify that you are an adult to begin with, and there'll be a verification process for you, and then you have the option of letting your child on.
So to translate that, Senator Mike McKell, who I want to say in advance of my reaction here, is a very smart guy with really good intentions here. This bill that would ban social media use for minors here in Utah, age 16 and under, without parental consent and ID or age verification. His answer to how would this work, we don't really know. But we're going to force the Utah Division of Consumer Protection to find a way. So we'll see where this one goes. It's headed to the House, did pass the Senate finally today after much debate, weeks of debate. Headed to the House, and we'll see what happens to it there. But still a lot of questions. There's your legislative update for the day, and we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
Help your car do better in the cold weather with these items from your locally owned Napa Auto Parts. Save up to $19 a pair on silicone wiper blades from Trico and Rain-X. Diesel additives from Howes, Power Service, Schaefer's, and Stanadyne are all in stock. Get a $20 rebate on Napa Legend and Napa AAA batteries. Night vision headlights, 50% off. Great parts, great service at your 5 locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts.
Hi, this is Drew Allen with Allen Mortuaries. Over the years, thousands of families have planned ahead with Allen Mortuaries. Planning ahead helps you make informed and thoughtful decisions. It also spares your family the stress of making these decisions under the pressure of time and strong emotions. Allen Mortuaries' secure pre-need trust plan can save you nearly 40% versus other plans. Keep it simple, safe, and secure. Go with the proven choice, Allen Mortuaries. Voted best funeral home in Cache Valley in northern Utah. Allen Mortuaries. Then, now, always.
that is our time for today. Appreciate everyone tuning in, and please be back with us tomorrow. Theater Hour with Charlie Schill kicks things off at 4 o'clock. Then at 5 o'clock, the legislative session from the perspective of the Logan City School District. Superintendent Frank Schofield will be here tomorrow at 5.